Welcome to Happy Times and Places, which is also a slightly echoey place for about 15 seconds, as I had to get the sound for that part of the podcast from a slightly inferior source. Other than that, though, it's generally me, Toby Hadoke, accentuating the positive on a Doctor Who story chosen by a friend of mine.
Hello, Toby. My name is James Goss, and I write things for Big Finish. I write target novels, and, well, that's what I do. And you've asked me to nominate a story, and I'm nominating Four to Doomsday because nobody else will, because they're all wrong. Because Four to Doomsday is Four to Doomsday. And I hope you're about to enjoy Four to Doomsday as much as it's given me pleasure over many, many years since I first saw it.
Well, welcome everybody back to this particular run of Happy Times and Places, where the place is a big old spaceship with a hydroponic centre, some excellent sets and some fine lighting, and the happiness comes from the sets and the fine lighting, but maybe some other places as well. I'm in quite a buoyant mood this evening. Sometimes these things are simply dictated by what's going on. It's not even what's going on. I have no external stimuli have cheered me up. I just happen to be bouncier this evening. Right. Anyway, you don't need to know, do you? You don't care about you, Toby. What? We just care about Doctor Who. Quite right, too. So, we're going to watch from the beginning. I am watching episode 3, accompanied by James Goss, of 4 to Doomsday. And I'm going to get it to start in 3, 2, 1. So, of course, we're in the beginning of the second week. I suppose it's a bit like Doctor Who these days, isn't it? Is that you get 50 minutes of Doctor Who over the course of a week. It's just this was split up into weekdays. I was never very happy with it being on weekdays because I had at this time been sent to boarding school, not because we're posh, because we didn't have any money, and Mum had to go back to work. And so a local school took me in, paid for by a charity. So I was only down the road, but it meant I slept there. But that meant... Oh, no. Did that happen this year? You don't care. It doesn't matter. No, I actually saw this go out. That happened next year. That was to come. I was blissfully ignorant of the fact that the following year I was going to miss Doctor Who as it went out. I saw these go out live. Watched on a black and white portable television. Though it's funny because I don't see this in black and white. I see it in colour, although when I first did see it, we had a black and white telly. We didn't get a colour telly for quite some time. The Two Doctors, I think. That's terrifying, isn't it? So, Philip Locke. I love Philip Locke, and I'm really liking his performance in this. I'd had a difficulty with it. I think he says by Zeus at one point in a later episode that's not especially convincing. But anyway, I love this sort of sing-song melancholy that he has, and he had a fine stage career. He was I used to watch quite often. I'm a big fan of the play Antony and Cleopatra, and there was an RSC version that before they did sort of National Theatre Live and stuff, they did a televised version. It was the stage production, but it was a really well filmed. They sort of thought about how to present it on camera. Production of Antony and Cleopatra, Richard Johnson and Janet Suzman were the title roles, and Patrick Stewart was Ena Barbas, and a very leering Agrippa, which in the play itself is sort of basically, one of Caesar's henchmen guys, but Philip Locke and Patrick Godfrey were Agrippa and Maecenas, and I think they've rolled a couple of, they gave them a few extra lines, rolled a couple of parts into them, and he's a really memorable Agrippa. But he was of course also Peter Quince in the very famous Peter Brook Midsummer Night's Dream, which also starred Tommy off of Planet of the Spiders. John Cain was Puck, and Philip Locke was Peter Quince, and in a landmark, world-changing production set on trapezes on a white set. Anyway, the Chinaman. Oh dear. But I like all of this, pondering on what existence means. is Baigan any less in existence because he is, a load of different circuits, in the same way that actually if you boil us down to our constituent parts, although it is flesh, we are in the flesh time, it is the flesh that transmits our neurons and our thoughts and our, and powers us via oxygen and, how we process different things to make this organic vehicle move. Why is that any different to a series of, electronic cables and silicon chips and all of that? And external and internal. The organs aren't too bad, Monarch, but let's not get into that. What about love? That's the great cliche of what you say, isn't it, to a machine in science fiction? But I like the way that Enlightenment describes it as the exchange of two fantasies. And now Adric wades in, and wouldn't it be lovely if Adric was being full of guile and conning Monarch in order to find things out? But no, Adric's just being stupid. So I don't know why they thought that to make him constantly wrong, and usually for a hot-headed, impetuous, and not very likable motivation. Why anyone thought that was a good idea, I have no idea, and I do feel sorry for Matthew Waterhouse, because there's no irony, there's no twinkle in what he does. He's a prick. I mean, and it's suddenly kicked in, hasn't it? Because we haven't really had the plot kick in, and now suddenly we're going, oh, everyone's an android, and Monarch wants to invade the Earth. What? Hang on, was there any real sort of statement about that? Well, that was it. So we're suddenly getting a big info dump. It's an interesting way to tell the story, isn't it? Because this is essentially V, or the Claws of Axos. Aliens turn up and go, we're really nice. Well, this is what Monarch's planning to do. But actually are there for nefarious means. Now, the way they've decided to tell this story is that we don't get to Earth. Because this story ends before Monarch's plan is put into operation. I'm not having just eulogized for. I wasn't a great fan of the way he says with this, he will conquer Earth. It's a very odd bit of emoting that when he's doing the sort of subtle, strange, slight melancholy rather well. That desperation about conquering Earth, I would say, was not his métier. Whereas, because he's not a stranger to genre, he's Vargas in Thunderball. Vargas does not drink, does not sleep, does not make love. What a series of wonderful parts he had. A proper, just in those days when actors just worked and worked, playing all sorts of great parts on stage, then nipping in to do a bit of telly, making the odd film. Oh, heaven! I love the way that my father was killed by a tyrant, as if that's some sort of job description. Yes, I don't trust. I can understand you sort of saying I don't trust helicopters. My father was killed in a helicopter, but tyrant is a slightly it's a slightly less exact demarcation, isn't it? It's that my father was killed by a baddie. Is essentially what she's saying. Is he doing a sort of Greek? I suppose he's doing a sort of the way that Greek drama was done. It was very declamatory and involved hand movements because they wore masks. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt here because I've sort of enjoyed him. I knew there was a reason. Yeah. Now, that's all a bit weird, isn't it? Monarch believes that he will meet himself. So Monarch is an absolute Fruit Loop. Which again, I mean, Does it mean that Stratford-John should be doing more? No, and apparently some of the crew told Stratford-John's was a bit too over the top. I actually think there's an argument to say I really like his performance, but there's an argument to say he could chew the scenery a bit more, seeing as he's playing somebody who thinks he's God. I think it really, really works that he is so. He's not underplaying it because he's not mumbling it, but he's casual in his power and his confidence, which I enjoy. That's it, Adric. You tell the bad guy everything. Time and relative. Yes, it's quite chatty at the moment. This, isn't it? Which is I'm aware what I've got to be. Yeah, you mind your manners, my dear. Yeah, he is great, Stratford-Johns. I think it's got a yes, Adric. You tell them about the bathroom. Another shortcoming of the flesh time. He's guileless, isn't he, Adric? And I obviously I spent a very nice weekend with Matthew Waterhouse. He walks in a funny way as well. Yeah. Yes, because you figured him out. One only harms that which one fears. I like that. That's very good. There's some elegant lines in this. I have free will. Oh, so he's got a... Right. Oh, poor old Bygone, therefore, has spent, 2,500 years wanting to do something about it, and he's not been able to. God, they must be bored. I mean, Fort of Doomsday takes place during the most exciting time on this spaceship, and it's not that exciting. So poor old Bygone has had to spend 2,500 years prior to this when Doctor Who wasn't there. It's no wonder he's slightly unsure how to convey emotion. Very good, energetic. He's at keeping the see that high pitched streaky thing that he does. He is racing to keep. Tennant's very good at this as well, of keeping the drama heightened by. It also gets exposition out nice and quickly. Of doing it as a sort of frantic, call to arms in a way. Of I'm getting this out because we've got somewhere else to be to stop the bad things happening, and it's a very clever decision. Especially in a story that involves lots of wandering up and down a spaceship. Now I got a feeling Nissa gets hypnotised, isn't there? I think this might be a track on the Doctor Who The Music album that I still have somewhere on vinyl. Yeah. It's actually not much. You can't really get down and boogie to it. It's not the... it's... Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yes, do. Yeah, it's quite funky, but it's not, it's not what you put on to get jiggity to. So I put it on a lot because I did more of putting on unjiggity music than I did getting jiggity. No, it's not Monarch, but you and your bad guys have not risen from your chairs for the whole episode, so the audience's patience is not inexhaustible either. So this has been, that's nice. Oh, so this is right. So you've got a bit of fun now with the Doctor going around and distracting the Monopticons. Uses his cricket ball to do it, which is rather nice. And gives the sonic screwdriver a little sort of whirl in order to spin the Monopticons round, and that's a great effect. So that's fun. Always feels nice when the Doctor starts to sort of undermine the status quo. I still am entirely unsure why Monarch thinks he's God, unless apart from, I guess, the fact that he's just right, the creator. Yeah. I haven't entirely got to grips with that part of Monarch's motivation, but I kind of like it, and I don't know why. Maybe because it's slightly unclear. This is a terrible waste of Burt Kwok, isn't it? An OBE. I will one day do a podcast about people in Doctor Who who've been honoured by the Queen, because I'm quite proud of the fact that the earliest person chronologically in Doctor Who's history to get one, in terms of when they appear or are involved in Doctor Who, is not somebody you would think had one. Is probably not somebody you even think about at all, because their contribution is so minor even to the story that they're involved with, that you wouldn't have thought that they would be somebody who had an MBE, but they are. But we will wait until we do that story, which nobody has... somebody has chosen it, but they haven't done it. Anyway, but Burt Kwok definitely deserved his OBE for his... I think it was an OBE for contributions to drama. Kato in the Inspector Clouseau films always put a smile on our faces as a family, and then he was, the contrast of that, him playing General Yamauchi in the brilliant series Tenko, shows just what a fine actor he was. And he was still working, up until he only died 3 or 4 years ago, maybe 5 now as I record this, but he was still very much part of the cultural furniture, and I never had the pleasure, unfortunately, but a legend, and I mean, playing a really terrible part in this. The good thing about the TARDIS crew is that you really want to spend time hanging around with them, because they're identification figures and such good fun. Whereas, of course, in real life, if you knock somebody out, causing somebody a concussion enough to knock them out is extremely dangerous. And if you liked them, no, she's right to go. See, that's beautiful, that doorway and that light, but there is an awful lot of walking about, isn't there? I still don't think I mind it. Although if there was a story like this today, I would probably be quite irritated, because I'd be thinking about the general public. And I do remember at the time crying out for an actual invasion. I remember that the title excited me so much. I think I said this in episode 1. Although I still don't... Is it the 4 lead characters to Doomsday? Is it 4 days to Doomsday? Or is it both? Another great set there. I mean, I know it's just a few pot plants stuck about, but it's elegantly done, and the colours are nice. It looks really good. And I think they had to work quite hard in those days. It just goes to show, in those days they had to work quite hard, I think, to get the extras playing the ethnic characters. I think. Because there've always been agencies that have specialised in. Even in the early 70s, Christopher Coombe, who's in The Mind of Evil, had an agency that specialised in actors of different ethnicities, so that if there was a production that was set in a particular country, he sort of got it sewn up, although it didn't work particularly well, because in Mind of Evil he ended up being in it because the actor he provided, Andy Ho, was deemed not good enough and fired. But anyway, we'll do that in Mind of Evil. But even so, I think, because obviously they're not actors, they're not speaking parts, so an agency. You'd need an extras agency, really. And I've got a feeling that the extras playing these characters came from the local Chinese restaurant. I'm sure that was. I'm sure that's not a myth. It might be a myth. We can have myths in this because I haven't done my homework. I am reacting. I'm doing what Fraser Sines always said when we did commentary. So I think the audience prefer it if they get my immediate reactions. It's like, what you mean there, Fraser, is you prefer not to do your homework, which he's under absolutely no obligation to be. But don't pretend you're doing it for the audience. So Lin Fuju did get something to do there. He got to eavesdrop a little bit in order, I think, to go and report to... Oh, gosh! Isn't this the funny scene where she... Doesn't she do a bit where she takes off and has the strangest reaction to materialising in space? Yes. Oh, it's all coming back to me. I haven't watched this for ages.
The subject is then terminated in their body, used to fertilize the floral chamber.
Oh, right. So that's it. By Zeus. Oh, dear. Isn't it interesting? Because he's a really, really good actor. And I think it's a really, really lovely performance. But that doesn't mean those two things always produce perfection. Yes, the devils. But that's an interesting idea. The idea that you basically you put yourself onto a hard disk, and your body is used to fertilize the flowers, which is that's good and sensible recycling. So I think that what's nice is that you could put a very good case for what Monarch is up to. So they've had to add this thing that he's slightly mad and believes he's God. But I think, and the fact that he was quite calm about Nyssa being a threat to him because she wasn't really a threat to him because he thinks he's God, so he doesn't fear things. But I think there needs to be something somewhere where there's fear or danger or somebody up to no good. I suppose Nyssa have... so right, here we go. That's what you want. This little me would have immediately perked up at this point. Somebody's got a laser gun. Somebody... This is the bit. Somebody brandishing a laser gun in Doctor Who should never be underestimated. It's the sort of thing I loved as a kid. Janet Fielding is working very, very hard there. I think her hands are working slightly better than her face. Oh, not for me. Oh, he's such a lovely character. He's really nicely written, actually. I think he is a really lovely... Well, he's a philosophical character, isn't he?
Might these be very useless? Not as they are. Perhaps I could alter their circuits.
Doctor, may I have your sonic screwdriver?
It's all rather polite, isn't it? Nobody's hiding. That's because of course they've set it up that the androids just have motor functions, so that they're obviously no threat to anybody. And by the way, I've got concussion and need immediate medical attention. I love the way he does this. Paul Shelley is brilliant. He's only had about 4 lines this episode. This is the bit where... Because you don't really know what's going on at this point. And she's crying tears and everything, but the ship hasn't taken off. It now has taken off. But I don't know what Tegan's doing or saying there. I think I love this bit. Is it where he goes, decircuit that? Yeah, beautiful. And then takes a step to the side. It's wonderful acting by Paul Shelley there, because he's pacing it right, he's doing the movements right, and he's bringing it to the end of the episode. And this, to me, was much more of an episode ending than the first 2, because it was my meat and drink. It's Doctor Who's going to have his head chopped off. That's what that's a much better episode. Now I think I was going to say it's the worst of the episode endings, but actually I think it's made by mighty Paul Shelley's D-Circuit that and kill him, which I love. Everyone's getting a solo. Oh, poor old Annie Lambert and Bert Cook. Paul Shelley got a solo slide there. Oh, if there only had been space for one more, everybody could have had a solo caption there. I like it when people get a solo caption. Mickey Edwards, he was a visual effects assistant on many, but was designer on this one. Died a couple of years ago. His son sent me a couple of lovely photos. He looked like a character. He looked a bit like the actor, is it Peter Martin? Sort of Toby Jug sort of faced, cheery looking actor. So there we go, Tony Burrow. Oh yes, you'll probably have. Well, I don't know when I will have released the interview with him, but it's going to accompany this either during or after. Anyway, that was episode 3, a very talky installment of 4 to Doomsday. What can I choose? My favourite bit is when Paul Shelley says D-Circuit that and kill him. But James has already chosen Enlightenment and Persuasion, so he's not going to choose a moment from one of them. He's already chosen the design. The Monopticons. Monarch is great. Stratford Johns is brilliant. Philip Locke is brilliant, but we can't just keep choosing people, can we? Well, I haven't chosen just people, have I? I've chosen the episode ending, and I've chosen the lighting. So do I choose philosophical Bygone? Do I choose Stratford Johns' Monarch, who is a very good villain, and it is an effortlessly good performance? I think, even though I don't like Conquer Earth and By Zeus, I do like the, is Bygone dreaming of electric sheep? I do like the whole thing around Bygone, as that he is this mass of circuits, but he retains his reason and his thoughtfulness and his philosophy, and the fact that episode is an enormous info dump. I think it's quite nice that it is being dumped in the tones of Philip Locke. Bygone? Do I say Bygone? I like that, all the Monopticons, which I do like. I do think they're pretty cool. The whole androidy, flesh-timey, Bygone-y thing, I think that's a dimension of the story that comes into the fore this episode, and I'm throwing a few things in there, hopefully one of which will be caught in James Goss's net as he chooses his favourite thing of episode 3.
My favourite thing about episode 3 is that we start to understand Monarch's plan. We realise that he believes he's God, because all the best Doctor Who villains believe they're God, and that they control human destiny, and that he has an entire vast spaceship full of androids who worship him. This is insane. This is wonderful. And he's a frog. He is a fruity frog. Congratulations, Doctor Who.
Brilliantly put, James, and better than what I came up with. And, very true about that. That's certainly what happens, is that we do start to understand the plot, but only in the sense that everybody sits down and tells it us after 50 minutes of walking around a ship very slowly. So I think there are different ways of doing it, but I still kind of admire this slightly odd thing. And I certainly like listening to James talk about it, because he's witty and funny. And indeed, a frog who thinks he's God on a spaceship with some philosophical androids. Only in Doctor Who, eh? Well, do come and join me for episode 4 of 4 to Doomsday, which will be the very next release in this run of Happy Times and Places. But for the moment, from me, Toby Hadoke, thank you very much, and goodbye. Thank you so much for listening to Happy Times and Places, which is presented by me, Toby Hadoke. My special guest this time around is James Goss, who can be found on Twitter @GossJam. I would like to thank him and to the patrons who make these podcasts possible, and they include Leslie Coots, Peter Crocker, Philip Craggs, Lee Kremin, Dave Curran, Paul Philip Dahlgren, Matt Dale, Rob Dawson, Chris Davies, Hugh Davies, Robert Davies, a lot of Davies, Ian Dean, Tim Dickinson, Drew, don't know your surname, Drew, Paul Dykes, Andrew East, Andrew Egan, Mark Findlay Smith, Chris Phone, David Gillespie, Charles Gears, Lisa Gledhill, Robin Groan, Paul J. Guest, Thomas Guerrier, Hammer House of Podcast, Susan Harrison, Steve Hatcher, Duncan Harvey, Ronald Hayden, Legion Henderson, Stephen Hill, Chris Hyam, Simon Hodges and Matthew Hooliston. The music is by Dave Gates, the artwork by Dylan Patterson. If you would like to join their number, please give your bodies to patreon.com/Toby Hadoke, where they will be used to nourish my fiscal situation, and you will be returned as a silicon chip with all sorts of podcasts stored upon it. And you can do that for as little as you get to keep your body. For as little as £3, aren't I kind? For as little as £3 a month. And if you sign up for a year, you get a 10% discount, even on the lowest tier, where you get most of the things which are available from my Patreon page, which are advanced releases, bonus material, special access, there's Ask Me Anythings and various other bits and bobs, and you're generally much, much further ahead with the podcasts. In fact, when the patrons listening to this, Boris Johnson's still Prime Minister, which surely won't be the case by the time this gets out to the world. I wonder, do you know what, he still might be. Anyway, you can also come and see me do live comedy once a month online at twitch.tv/Excess Malarkey. That is the online version of my live stand-up gig, which is at Excess Malarkey Comedy Club in Manchester, which is on at 8 p.m. every Tuesday night. As I record this, I'm actually about to go out and do it and host, as I always do. I'm the MC, Joe Lycett from Off of the Telly, and people are paying between £3 and £6 to see him because it's very, very affordable. Now, obviously, you won't be able to do that because by the time you listen to this, that will be in the past, but it's an indication of the sort of thing you could be getting up to if you come to Excess Malarkey Comedy Club in Manchester at 8 p.m. on a Tuesday. My father was killed by a tyrant. Are you a tyrant? Well, I don't know if I qualify. Actually, I think I'm more of a despot. I'm aiming to be a tyrant. I think you'll find, sir, you're actually a bit more of a dictator. Oh, I see. It is, isn't it? It's like a joke. My father was killed by a painter and decorator. Yeah, I don't know. He's more of an artisan. Anyway, that just made me giggle. That'll do. That's the end credits bit. It's not always going to be gold.